Good evening, everyone. My name is Becky. I'm the Programming and Collection Development Librarian here at Storrs Library. Thank you for joining us for Understanding Your Cat with Dr. Rachel. Dr. Rachel is going to talk to us a little bit about some cat behavior, her passion for cats, and how she got to do what she does. And then we'll have plenty of time for discussion and questions and answers. So Dr. Rachel, thank you for joining us and welcome.
Thanks, Becky, and thank you, Storrs. It's great to be here tonight. And as Becky said, I am a certified cat behaviorist. And, you know, it's not your everyday profession. So I will say that a question I'm asked a lot is, why do you spend so much time helping cats? You know, why don't you spend your time helping people? But the truth is, when you help cats, you're also always helping people. Now, I find that people tend to assume that if a cat has a behavior problem, the problem must be with the cat. Most of the time, this simply is not true. Most of these cats are not difficult, and they really don't have behavior problems at all. The fact is, many times their humans have problems, and this creates problems for the cats. Whenever a human being has a serious problem, such as illness, bereavement, job loss, divorce, a pandemic, you will often find a cat suffering at the other end of it. So I have found that you really never help a cat without also helping a person. Now, don't get me wrong. I help a lot of people whose cats won't use the litter box, cats who scratch on everything except for that lovely scratching post that you brought home. And what should you do when you bring home Fluffy as a companion for Puffy? And as it turns out, Puffy didn't want a new brother or sister all that much. But I also help people in distress. For example, just the other day, a woman contacted me to say that she would have to surrender her cat. She actually started off the entire conversation by telling me she was sure there was nothing that I could do to help. You see, she had cancer and several small children. She was terrified, exhausted, and completely overwhelmed. Amidst all of this, she had an older cat, and she was feeling bad because she felt like she couldn't give the cat enough attention. She couldn't give the cat the same amount of attention the cat was used to. This woman and I talked for a very long time. Actually, I listened a lot. I listened to her describe her situation. And eventually I said to her, your kids are stressed because you're sick, but they're going to feel even more stressed or even more upset if they lose the family cat at the same time. I also reminded her that cats are fundamentally loyal, caring, and incredibly perceptive animals, something probably a lot of you already know. So if her cat didn't get the same amount of attention for a period of time because she was getting treated for cancer, well, that cat was part of the family. And that's what families do, and that's okay. I also explained to her that the cat would surely prefer to give up some attention temporarily rather than to be permanently separated from her family. Sometimes people just need to be reassured. By then, the woman was crying. She said to me, do you really think it would be okay for me to keep my cat? What I learned through this situation was that the woman really did not want to give up her cat at all. She wanted to do the right thing. She just wasn't sure what that was. And in the end, she kept her cat, and I promised my help and support. And that's pretty much what I try to do every day. Work to solve behavior problems so people do not have to sacrifice the cats who they love. Now, I do a lot of cat behavior counsels. I do around 1,000 cases every single year, and I do them all completely free of charge. It's my personal mission in life that I never want there to be a financial barrier preventing people from keeping their cats in their homes. But when you do that many cases with that many cats and that many people, you start to notice some patterns and you start to notice some interesting things people think. So I'd like to take this opportunity to dispel some myths and to clarify some common cat behavior things that I hear all the time. Okay, so the first one is cats do not act out of revenge or spite with their pee or poop. Oh, I hear tales of woe. She peed on my bed to teach me a lesson. She peed on my laundry because she was mad at me. She peed on my luggage because she thought I might go on vacation. She peed on my shoes because she doesn't like my new boyfriend. Well, actually, maybe that one could be true. Cats are very good judges of character. But in all seriousness, I want everyone to know that cats do not pee inappropriately out of spite or revenge. Cats are fastidious creatures. Cats want to use their litter boxes. If your cat is not using her box, it's because something or someone in her mind is preventing her from using it. And we need to figure that out. Now, I do understand that it's very easy to assign human qualities to cats because they really do share so many of our emotions. But spite and revenge are qualities we humans can proudly call our very own. Next, you know that big basket of toys that you have sitting in your living room, and every once in a while you throw some of those toys out on the rug, or you have that big basket of toys that's been there forever, and you know, when you think of it, you throw some out for your cat. So throwing a bunch of solo toys on the floor is really not play for your cat. Now, play is supposed to simulate a hunt. So with solo toys, the cat has to be both the predator and the prey. And that is not very realistic for your cat. So if you're wondering why your cat doesn't want to play, it's because she sort of knows that, you know, this is really not a hunt. So many people tell me that their cats don't play. I hear this all the time. Oh, my cat doesn't play. Oh, my cat's lazy. She doesn't play. Oh, my cat's old. She doesn't play. But the truth is, many people do not take the time to properly trigger your cat's prey drive. All cats want to hunt. Cats are natural born hunters. So if your cat isn't playing, which means hunting, it means we're not doing a good job of triggering that prey drive. So the thing to remember is for your cat, the most important part of play is the capture. That's the point, right? The cat wants to capture the prey, and then the cat wants to eat the prey. So I see so many people who think that the point of the game is how long you can keep the toy away from the cat. Just as the cat gets close, they yank it away again. But you really want to give your cat multiple captures when you're playing with your cat. Your cat will feel empowered and happy with the physical, tangible success that comes from watching, stalking, pouncing, and ultimately capturing. The capturing is the rewarding part for your cat. So I find the best way to play with your cat is with a fishing pole type toy, because then you can control the movements and really simulate a hunt for your cat. So whip out that fishing pole type toy and stay with the game for a while. Intersperse the chasing and the pouncing with plenty of captures. Now, to make it a perfect play experience for your cat, I want you to slowly wind down the game. Again, think about a hunt and think about the prey. The prey is getting injured. The prey is getting tired. The prey dies. So slowly wind the game down and finish the game with one last juicy, successful final capture. Now remember, it's supposed to simulate a hunt. So now you need to give your cat a little treat or a little bit of food that simulates the feast after the capture. When you follow the capture with a little treat or a little food, your cat's brain now releases all of those feel-good chemicals. And she feels like queen of her territory or king of his castle. And this is how we want our cats to feel, right? We want our cats to feel like successful, confident hunters who can, get that prey and then have the delight of eating the prey. So this is really what you want to think about when you're playing with your cat. And I guarantee that if you start playing with your cat in that way, and your cat now learns that play has a point to it and that it's realistic, your cat will start playing with you. So along those lines, let's now talk about laser pointers. I really wish pet supply stores did not sell laser pointers as toys. They were developed to be used for PowerPoint presentations, and that is where they should stay. Laser pointers are actually the cause of so many behavior problems in cats. Think about it. Your poor cat is on this futile chase, pointlessly trying to catch that little red dot that can never be captured. And remember, the capture is the whole point of the hunt and of the game. Look at your cat when he's playing with a laser pointer. Certain of a sure catch, your cat pounces, only to find there's nothing there. There's nothing between his paws and there's nothing between his teeth. It's very frustrating for a cat. So laser pointers do create frustration and anxiety in cats. And this is the exact opposite of what we want to do when we play with our cats. We want to release tension and boost confidence. Interestingly enough, laser pointers even create problems between companion cats. So when you're using a laser pointer to play with your cat and he's never getting a capture, he's going to look to get a capture in some other way. And he might pounce on a companion cat or pounce on you. And usually these are not very acceptable things for the companion cats or for the humans in the household. Remember, cats expect a catch and kill after play. So a cat who is always teased with a laser pointer will try to attack, bite, or scratch a companion cat or even the humans in the household. Laser pointers cause confusion, and it really is an unwinnable game for your cat. Your cat can chase and stalk and pounce all he wants, but he is never, ever going to catch that little red dot. And often this results in behaviors that are aggressive or even destructive, because your cat is going to need to redirect that stress and anxiety somewhere. So play smart, play safe, and play in a way that really satisfies your cat's natural hunting muscles, and use a fishing pole type toy to play. The best part about the fishing pole toy is you are part of the game. So all of those positive associations and feeling good and feeling happy and feeling like a successful conqueror will all be associated with you. So it's really an incredible way to create a very powerful cat-human bond. No matter what your relationship is with your cat right now, using a fishing pole type toy to play is going to make it even better. So give it a try. Okay, last. Cats do not want privacy when they use their litter boxes. So covered boxes are really not necessary for cats. Now, I get it that covered boxes from a human perspective may provide privacy, but we are placing a human need onto our cats. And actually, privacy and a covered box is the last thing your cat wants. Now, your cat feels very vulnerable when she's in the litter box. When your cat is in that vulnerable peeing position or pooping position, she's very aware of all of the potential cats, opponents, or other invaders who may be ready to ambush her when she's in the box. So your cat wants to be able to see all the way around her. Now, I want to point out that these opponents or invaders or other cats can be real or imagined. Even only cats in the household who never go outside are aware of potential opponents when they are in the litter box. So Your cat wants to be able to see all the way around her. Your cat wants a clear, clean visual field. So a covered box reduces completely your cat's visual field. Even worse, with a covered box, your cat can't see around her and be aware of opponents. So should an opponent appear, the only means of escape is right into that opponent's face. So that is not very reassuring for your cat. So the other drawback of covered boxes is they tend to hold in the odor and tend to stay wet longer. So when people come to me with a litter box problem and I find out that they have a covered box, typically the first thing I'll say is toss those covers, and that will solve the problem. So cats do not need privacy like we do. They actually want the complete opposite. They want to be able to see all the way around them. You know, my neighbor has a cat that she lets outdoors, and that cat will poop on the front lawn with the trailer cars going by. So privacy is not a cat issue, it's a human issue. So when it comes to litter boxes, we really need to think like a cat and not like a person. So how did I get here? How did I make a profession out of, you know, talking about litter boxes and scratching and pee and poop? I know it's not your usual thing that people expect. So I guess like a lot of things in people's lives, I'm going to go ahead and blame it on my parents. My parents' view on pets, cats or otherwise, could not have been more different. My dad grew up in Dorchester, Massachusetts. He grew up in a very small, crowded apartment that his immediate family shared with his extended family. So there were a lot of people in a small space. On top of that, the apartment did not allow pets. It didn't really matter because there wasn't any room. And my dad's family was very poor. They were barely able to feed themselves. On the other hand, my mother grew up in a single family home with lots of room, and pets were cherished family members, and cats were considered part of the family. Later in their marriage, my parents were forced to strike a bit of a compromise about pets in our home when their firstborn, me, seemed to have discovered an endless parade of cats in the neighborhood who really needed me and who somehow ended up at our house. But with bringing all these cats home came lessons in responsibility. And I can remember this, it could have been yesterday. I was sitting at home eating breakfast at the table, and my dad came down the stairs and he saw me eating breakfast and he said, "Rachel, have you fed your cats yet?" And I said, "Oh, Dad, as soon as I finish eating breakfast, I promise I'm going to feed the cats." And he looked at me and he said, "No, you need to feed those cats before you feed yourself." And he had me stop eating and go feed the cats first before I finished my breakfast. And he explained to me that the cats were vulnerable. They were dependent on me. I was responsible for their care. And that was a very powerful lesson. And I will say to this very day, the first thing I do when I wake up is I take care of the cats, clean the litter box, feed the cats before I do anything for myself. I deeply, deeply loved all of these cats and mourned greatly their loss when one died. And at some point, as a little girl, I began to memorize the names and faces of all of the cats who had lived, loved, and died at our house. One day, I asked my dad whether he thought all of those cats would meet me in heaven and whether they would recognize me and I them. He assured me that they would, that the cats would remember me and that I would remember them forever. Thinking back, the lesson I learned was really about my father's assurances that the relationships I had with my cats last, that the relationships with our companion cats have meaning, that our relationships with our cats are enduring, they are important. And to me, it meant that they are worth saving. And that's really what set me on the path to becoming a certified cat behaviorist. So my name is Rachel Geller. I am a cat behaviorist, and I'm ready to take all of your cat behavior questions now. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Rachel. There are a couple of people who came in a little bit late, so I just want to remind everyone that this is being recorded. If you would prefer not to be recorded, please feel welcome to use the chat box. But I've also turned on the option for everyone to turn on their mics. If you'd like to ask some questions or join in on the conversation, you are very welcome to do so. If you're not familiar with it, you want to look for your little microphone. It's probably in the bottom left corner. So just turn that on to be able to participate. And it looks like Laura turned on her microphone. Laura, did you have a question or a comment?
Yeah, I do. Rachel, do you think it's possible that some cats have the same sort of maybe emotional or personality disorders that people have? Meaning maybe some cats are not capable of living in a home with people and with other cats for whatever reason, and there's really nothing that can be done for them.
Yeah, I mean, I think just like people, the way you phrased the question was perfect. I think just like people, cats have a wide range of personality traits and likes and dislikes. You know, I know some people who would rather not be around other people. So I think, you know, cats can definitely be the same way. You know, I think there's so much that goes into that situation. And it's just a really interesting question. Because I have socialized and domesticated feral cats many, many times. But having said that, it's like a full-time job. So it's something that you need to dedicate several hours a day to, and really, you know, be willing to accept that they may not ever be super friendly cats. But they're definitely feral cats who are hardwired to be feral. Their parents were feral, their grandparents are feral, they've always been feral. And those cats are definitely harder to tame and domesticate and become part of a family. And they're definitely cats who don't like other cats. You know, there are cats who love to cuddle with other cats, but then you have your more alpha cats who, you know, they don't really want to have other cats around. So I do think that there are some cats that no matter what you do, you know, you're going to kind of get to that point where you're spinning your wheels or only getting to a certain point. Having said that, I've definitely had a lot of misfit cats in my home because I personally have a hard time, you know, I don't want to say giving up on a cat, but, you know, reaching that point where I say, okay, I'm going to wave the white flag of surrender. I always feel like there might be something in there, or the cat wants to love. She just needs to be shown how. But I think realistically, there are definitely cats who, you know, may not ever really come around. Now, having said that, I know people who have certain psychological or psychiatric disorders, and they benefit from medication. And I think cats are the same way. So there are some cats that we can give Prozac to, kitty Prozac to, for anxiety, or, you know, a multitude of medications or pharmacological approaches are now available for cats. So that's always something that we can consider for cats who seem, you know, like they really don't like people all that much, or they might have fear aggression or territorial aggression or something like that. So it's an interesting question, and it's hard to know when to sort of make that determination. But, you know, depending on the time and the situation involved, you know, if you have a multi-cat household and you really can't dedicate a lot of time to maybe this one feral type cat, you know, maybe a barn program might be more beneficial for that cat, and the cat might be happier too. It might be less distress to the cat if he can really live in a situation that's more comforting for him. You know, there were a lot of feral cats who you don't want to relocate from their colonies because that's their home and they're happy there. So yeah, I do think that just like people, there are cats who run the gamut of, personalities and likes and dislikes and their ability to form relationships with other cats and with other people. Absolutely.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Did you have a particular cat that you're struggling with?
Well,
just
I
curious.
volunteer at a couple of shelters, and I've seen some situations where it's really hard to know what to do to
Yeah.
help the cat.
Yeah.
And I know sometimes the best thing for a feral cat is just to release, have them spayed and neutered and vaccinated and then re-released back to where they were, where they came
Yes.
from.
Yeah.
But if they, after it goes on for a certain length of time, and if the cat's got to take medication, you can't really do that.
Yes, absolutely. And it's always like a judgment call. And just like everything in life, there's pros and cons and risks and rewards. And sometimes we do our best. Sometimes with colonies, if the cat really does get ill, then we'll bring the cat in. And, usually they're more amenable to it when they don't feel well either. But I think in shelters, it's always a tough call because some cats end up in shelters, that should have been outdoors, but somebody brought the cat in. So, there were so many things that can happen, but it sounds like, you're doing your best and you're really aware of the cat and the cat's unique needs. And that's sometimes all we can do. So thanks.
Well, thank you again.
All right, and thank you for such an elaborate answer. That's really appreciated. We have a question from the chat box that says, our cat likes to chew on plastic bags and plastic items. Is there a reason for this? What can we do besides keeping those items away from him? And I have to say, I have the same problem. Even if he has plenty of food and water and has played and been pet, he'll still seek those things out, even though it makes him sick and he's so uncomfortable afterwards.
All right, this is such a common problem. It comes up in every single presentation that I do. So you're not alone, if that helps. All right, so there's usually two main reasons why cats chew on plastic. One is kind of stress, anxiety, nerves. It doesn't mean your cat's unhappy. Think of somebody who bites their fingernails or twirls their hair a lot, right? They're not unhappy people. It's just a little nervous thing that they might have. So tension, stress is one reason for that plastic chewing. The other reason is lack of fiber in the diet. And again, this is one of those individual things where just like people, some people need to take fiber supplements. It's the same with cats. Some cats may need more or less fiber in their diets. So let's go over the anxiety one first. So let's assume your cat's chewing that plastic because, it feels good. He's getting that feeling out, that tension out. The first thing you should do, the first thing I want you to do is we're going to take some plastic and coat it with a bitter anti-chew product. There are many available at any pet supply store, Chewy, Amazon. We're going to coat the plastic with a bitter anti-chew product for cats. We're going to leave it out on purpose on the floor for your cat to find it. So what happens now is it won't take long for your cat to realize that this plastic is no longer as an appealing chewing item as it once was. It's not going to taste good to him. He's not going to enjoy it as much, and it's going to deter him from plastic in general. So, and the best thing about this is you're not yelling at your cat. He comes to the conclusion on his own. So many times with cats, the best course of action is to let the cat think this was all his idea. This works well on my husband too, by the way. So we're going to leave out some plastic. We're going to have it coated with a bitter anti-chew product. We're going to let the cat on purpose come up and chew this plastic. He's not going to like it anymore. After a while, he's going to realize this plastic is no longer a great chewing material. But whenever we take something away from a cat, we always want to make sure we have an equally appealing alternative, maybe even a better alternative. So we now need to provide your cat a way to release this tension. The best way to do it is the interactive play therapy that I described at the beginning. Interactive play therapy is the best way for cats to release tension and get that feeling of capture and get that feeling of chewing. So get out your fishing pole type toy, conduct a little interactive play session, make sure your cat gets multiple captures during the session, wind it down after about 10 or 15 minutes, finish the session with a last final really great juicy capture, and then food. This is going to be much more enticing to your cat than going after the plastic. The other thing is you can leave out other stuff for your cat to chew and play with. Puzzle feeders are one of my favorite things. There is a product called catnip infused tissue paper that cats love. Cat grass is another great option. So we never want to deter without having something to redirect to. So we're going to deter with the bitter anti-chew. We're going to redirect to interactive play therapy and the other things that I mentioned. Now for the fiber, and we can do this in addition to the anxiety, so we cover all of our bases. What I recommend is mixing in a little bit of pumpkin into the cat's wet food. You can get pure pumpkin puree that is formulated for cats. And again, you can get it at any pet supply store. So brands that I like are PetSmart Authority brand, makes a great plain pumpkin puree. Weruva makes a really nice one called Pumpkin Patch Up. And there's a brand called Solistics that makes a nice plain pumpkin puree. Mix about 1/4 to 1/2 teaspoon into the cat's wet food. They don't mind the taste, and it adds fiber to the cat's diet. So that can be like our two-pronged approach to the plastic chewing problem.
Excellent, thank you.
You're welcome.
I see Christina and John have turned on their microphone. Did you have a question or comment?
We do. We have introduced a kitten into our household, so we are now a 3-cat household, and we've noticed some trouble. We have an older cat who, he and the other adult cat were living in harmony, and now the younger cat wants to chase him and play with him, which of course he really doesn't want. And what he's done is kind of left the living spaces of the house to the kitten, and he's now kind of going and hiding in places that the kitten doesn't go. And we tried using a squirt bottle to discourage the kitten from trying to play with the older cat. He doesn't seem to care. The kitten's like, oh, squirt bottle, that's terrific. So we're just wondering if you have any advice on how we can encourage our older cat to feel like he can be in the house again and discourage the kitten from constantly wanting to play.
Okay, so yes, spray bottles and squirt bottles never work, as you saw, because the kitten is the kitten's instinct, it's the kitten's natural kitten need to play. So a squirt bottle, all you're going to do, as you've seen, is get a wet kitten that's just going to keep on trying to play because it's natural kitten behavior. So we're not going to untrain that or get that to stop. So for you, I want you to definitely get on a regular schedule of interactive play with a fishing pole type toy, the way I've now described it. This kitten needs opportunities to hunt and capture, and she needs a lot of them because she's a kitten. And if she doesn't get enough opportunities to hunt and capture, she's now going to do that with the older cat. And as you found out, it's not very acceptable to the older cat. So your kitten would much rather have a hunt that's realistic, that ends with capturing the prey and ends with food. She would way rather have that than go after the other cat. So if you can get on a regular schedule of the interactive play, I say at least 2 or 3 sessions a day for 10 or 15 minutes at a time, that kitten's need to hunt and play will be greatly satisfied, and she won't have as much of a need to go after the older cat. But in addition to that, I want to teach you a method called distraction and redirection. So here's how this works, and this also incorporates interactive play. So when you see, if you're home and you see the kitten going to instigate a play session with the older cat who doesn't want it, this is the moment where you now distract your kitten with a toy. So when you distract your kitten with a toy, you shift him out of that, anxious, tense mode, I need to find something to play with, and you shift your kitten into the positive mode of a hunter. And all young cats and kittens would much rather be in this mode. So I want you to distract your cat with something that's going to get distract your kitten with something that's going to get her attention. So like a crinkly mylar ball. There's those balls that shake and they have stuff inside it and they make a noise. Anything like that would be terrific. So you're going to distract your cat with the toy. and your kitten with the toy. And now we're going to move the kitten away from where she was about to instigate with the older cat, and then conduct a little impromptu interactive play session. So distract the kitten with the toy, move her away from where she was going to instigate with your older cat, have a little play session, multiple captures, final capture, food. Your older cat remains safe. The kitten gets to release her anxiety and energy. Everybody wins. The other thing is you want to make sure you have plenty of things for that kitten to do. So again, puzzle feeders, interactive activity toys, things where she's accomplishing a task, overcoming a challenge, getting captures are things that you can provide for the kitten, because, you know, I know you can't always be there to play with the kitten. So you want to make sure that she has other things to do. The catnip infused tissue paper, oh my God, they love that. The cat grass, even the way you feed the kitten. Instead of, if you leave out dry food for her, put a little bit of food in multiple bowls around the house. So she has to go on, you know, a fun expedition to find her food. All of these things are great for kittens and give the kitten that feeling of, you know, stalking in the capture. So she doesn't need to go after the older cat. So that will keep the kitten, you know, from the older cat. One thing that might help your older cat is, are your 3 cats all strictly indoor cats?
They are.
Okay, so one thing you could do is you could put a collar with a bell on it on the kitten. And this way your older cat will always know where that kitten is. She'll quickly learn that bell equals kitten. And that will be very reassuring to her. She's not going to worry as much about being ambushed or being stalked or not knowing where that kitten is. So that could be one sort of path of least resistance to making the older cat feel more comfortable. And the other thing is you can always give your older cat kind of like opportunities to have the house without the kitten. You can always put the kitten in another room, just, you know, even if it's just for 15 minutes, and let your older cat come out and see that everything's okay. So that might be another thing you might want to consider too.
Yes, we have been doing that. Just the kitten belongs to my son, so that's kind of the kitten's room. It's my son's room.
Okay.
And luckily my husband is home all day working, so he can play and we can set up some more stations.
Yeah.
I
have
one,
a feeling.
one quick follow-up.
Okay.
Oh, yep. I just wondered if you ever see cats that really want to sort of become the head of the household, you know, like, so they've come into this house, and maybe, is it possible that he's like, I'm going to be the one who's the top of the heap, or is that not something cats do?
No, that happens all the time. Status is very important to cats. And one thing you can do is make sure you have a lot of, you know, either multi-tiered cat trees or multi-layered vertical space, because cats will actually sort themselves out if they have enough vertical space. So one way, you know, if this kitten wants to be the head of the household, the kitten can show the higher status through a cat tree or through vertical space rather than trying to dominate the other cats. So, and in fact, cats would rather use vertical space to show their status or position in a household. So my favorite thing for this is a multi-tiered cat tree, because the cat who wants to have the highest status can be on top, and the other cats can have the tiers in the middle. But, you know, if you don't have a lot of room, look around your house. Chances are there's some shelving that's going unused, or a back of a sofa or top of a storage container, and you can create your own vertical space that way too.
Great. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
We have another question in the chat. They say that their cat is playful in the evening and likes to settle in and rest on our laps before bed. He's quiet throughout the night, but around 3 to 5 a.m., sometimes he's very active and starts scratching at the door and meowing very loudly. We think he is looking for companionship or to play, but everyone is deep asleep. Do you have any suggestions on how to help with the early morning wake-ups?
Yeah, so the feline alarm clock is a big problem for a lot of people. So you've heard me talk about interactive play now a few times. We can also use interactive play to reset your cat's internal clock. So cats' sleep cycles are shorter than ours are, which is why a lot of people have this problem. But if you do a robust interactive play session right before you go to bed, and I don't mean like an hour before you go to bed, I mean literally like the last thing you do before you shut your eyes. So play session, capture, food. One thing that interactive play does is it puts your cat into her natural hunt, eat, sleep cycle. So if the later you can do this before you go to bed, the better your chances are of being able to sleep through the night. So get into the habit of doing, a really good, juicy, robust play session right before bed. But you also want to provide your cat with things to do if she does wake up before you. So here is where, you want your puzzle feeders and your interactive toys. So before you go to bed, do the play session, throw out your puzzle feeders, throw out your interactive toys, and then go to bed. So that will give your cat something to do should she wake up before you, which is a good possibility that she might. If she's looking for food and you want to sort of have something different and enticing to place out before you go to bed, my favorite suggestion for this is something called bonito flakes, and it's spelled bonito. Again, you can get it at any pet supply store, Chewy, Amazon. It's just basically dried fish flakes. But if you add a little water to them, they really give off a fishy smell of real food, even though it's basically just like a soupy mix. So it's very low in calories. It's actually extremely high in nutrition. So it's something extra you can feed your cat without worrying about making her overweight, or eating too much. So you can also, before you go to bed, set out bonito flakes with a little water added to them. And that is probably going to be enticing enough for your cat to go and sip on that and not bother you. So kind of a multi-layered approach here. Do the play session right before bed to get her into that sleep cycle. Have puzzle feeders out so she has something entertaining to do if she does wake up before you and she doesn't need you that way. And leave out the bonito flakes. So there's that's something that's different. That's something that's special. So it's going to entice her should she wake up before you and wants to eat.
The patron said, okay, great, thank you. We'll try that.
Okay.
I don't have any other questions in the chat box right now. So just a reminder, everybody's welcome to use that or to turn on their mics. Be aware that this is being recorded. I have a question while we wait to see if there's any others from the audience. I guess maybe a two-part question. We adopted a cat about 3 years ago. He was a stray turned into a shelter. So we don't have any of his history and we don't know exactly how old he is. But he seems to be sad whenever he hears other cat noises like on TV or he sees something that looks like a cat. And we've been wondering if he might want a companion. So I guess my first part of my question is there a way to tell if a pet or specifically another cat would be good for the one we already have?
So I probably wouldn't think that hearing the cat noises on the TV would make him long for a cat, just because cats really recognize other cats more by scent than by the noise. So, but having said that, he might want a companion. What I would suggest when you go to a shelter is, how old is your cat right now?
We're not sure. We've gotten several different guesses from the shelter and from the vet where we got him. We're guessing maybe 8 or 9 now.
Okay. It's just, I wanted to see. Yeah. So he's not a kitten and he's not a young cat. He's middle-aged. So I would suggest in your case, looking for a cat who's at least 4 years old. And the reason I say this is because cats go through social maturity between the ages of 2 and 4. So we want a cat who's more of a formed adult for a few reasons. The biggest reason being that if a cat at 4 likes other cats, what you see is what you get. So he's always going to like other cats. Whereas a 2-year-old can go through, you don't really know, think of like going, when we go through puberty, you don't really know what's going to come out the other side. So a 2-year-old cat might like other cats, and by 3, he might not. And by 4, he might be an alpha cat. So, but after 4, the personality is set in stone. So if you went to a shelter, and ask for a cat who's 4 or over, you can really match the personality to your cat. So like if you have a cat who's really playful, you may not want a cat who's a little more mellow. If you have a cat who is a little more assertive, you might want to get a cat who's a little more submissive. And those personality traits are going to stay 4 or over. So that would be something that, you know, you'd want to go to the shelter, describe your cat's mannerisms and personality, and find a cat who's a good match, who's at least 4. That would be the best way to go about that. And no matter what personality, you know, no matter what cat you bring home, the most important thing is to do a very structured introduction between the 2 cats.
Okay. I guess a follow-up, is there anything that might cause him to do that when he hears cats? Because it did surprise us when he started doing it, but he's been doing it most of the time we've had him. He'll go looking for something and then he'll cry when he can't find it. And it only happens when like he hears a cat somewhere else. Like that's not even, you know, they're mostly on TV, and it just surprises us.
Yeah.
Is there something else that he could be doing?
Well, I mean, cats do meow to locate and find other cats. So it's definitely possible that the sound of the meow that he's hearing is realistic enough that he wants to now kind of know where that cat is. And so they will make a meow or some type of vocalization to find, you know, to see if the other cat is in the house.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I guess the second part of the scenario, we just moved into a new house, new neighborhood, and there's an outdoor cat that likes to wander up to our window slider. And at first, our cat seemed very curious and like he was sad that he couldn't play with him. But our cat has started to get aggressive, jumping and scratching at the window sometimes. And he's never done that. This is the first time I've ever heard him hiss even. Is there something we can do to help him address that? I'm not sure if it's a stray or if it's an outdoor cat from the neighborhood.
Yeah, this is a common problem because cats are very territorial creatures. And when another cat comes onto his territory, you know, he feels like his territory is up for grabs. And that's very, very unsettling for a cat. The best thing to do is, if you can you put something to block the view on that door, like a, you know, whatever, piece of cardboard or shade or something like that. I mean, the path of least resistance would be just to block that view, because the truth is you're not going to be able to do an introduction between the 2 cats.
Right.
So, and I've had the same issue in my home, you know, where some people in the neighborhood let their cats out and my cats got completely freaked out and I just close the door, draw the blinds, because you're not going to get the cats to get to know each other. It's not your cat, right? So you can't go through a structured introduction process, you know, nor do you want to. But we're not going to stop our cat's natural instinct. Like that's something there's not anything we can do to prevent that from happening. Cats are very territorial creatures. They live and die by monitoring, you know, and guarding their territory and making sure other cats know that they're there to stand their ground. So, you know, that's something we're not going to really be able to train or untrain.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
We have another question in the chat box from the family with the kitten. What is the best way to encourage scratching at a scratching post rather than other places? He doesn't seem to notice catnip.
So first of all, make sure you have the right post. So I see a lot of people who have posts that are way too short, and your cat doesn't want to have to crouch over to use your post. So the scratching post must be at least 3 feet tall. That's non-negotiable. If it's too short, your cat can't reach up to get a full stretch, and that's very important to get a cat to use her scratching post. Also, the texture. Make sure it's either rope wrapped or sisal wrapped. That's the texture that's necessary to slough off the dead sheaths on the cat's claws. So I know a lot of stores sell carpet covered posts, but from your cat's perspective, those are completely useless, and they don't do the job. And the other thing, and I know this seems obvious, but I see a lot of these posts that they sell that have these bases that aren't that big. The post needs to be really, really sturdy. I mean, if it's the slightest bit wobbly, the cat's not going to use it because it's not going to feel secure. So think about where a cat would scratch if she was outside. She'd be using a tree which are pretty secure. So that's why if you have a wobbly post, you might have a cat going to the back of the couch, right? Because that's pretty much more secure, you know, and it's not going anywhere. So make sure your post is the right texture, rope or sisal, the right height, at least 3 feet tall, and it's really sturdy. Now think about location. A lot of people like to hide the scratching post in a remote corner because, you know, it doesn't match the decor. They don't want it in the living room. But if your cat has to go, like pack a picnic lunch and go on an indoor hike to use her scratching post, she's going to scratch whatever is more convenient. So make sure the scratching posts are convenient for your cat. Don't have it tucked in some, you know, remote corner of your home. The other thing you could do is put the post on its side and use a fishing pole type toy and run a toy enticingly along the side of the post. And that your cat, you know, when she goes for the toy, is going to pounce on the post. And that's going to help her learn that it's a really enticing scratching surface. I think somebody mentioned catnip on the post. That's a great way to entice the cat to the post as well. And last, look where your cat is scratching if she's not using the scratching post. If she's scratching on the floor, she might be what's called a horizontal scratcher, and you need a scratching pad as opposed to a scratching post.
We have another question in the chat box. It says, my cat is closely bonded with me, but afraid of other people, hides when they are around. However, he's not afraid of my mother and often attacks her, claws her legs. He doesn't do this to anyone else. He is a cat person and has always been kind and tried to bond with him. Why does he attack her?
Well, I'm not really sure why he's attacking your mom. So there's something, you know, who knows? There might have been something in that cat's past. He had a bad experience with somebody who resembled your mom, or your mom's voice sounds like, you know, someone he had a bad experience with. There can be so many reasons, but we can always recreate a better cat-human bond. So going back to what I've talked to so many times, if your mother can play with this cat with a fishing pole type toy, that is by far, hands down, the best way to create a very powerful cat-human bond. Again, when your cat's feeling confident, your cat's brain is releasing the feel-good chemicals, your cat's feeling happy, your cat's feeling content, confident, successful conqueror. All of these positive associations will now include your mother. So the best thing to do would be for your mom to conduct interactive play sessions with your cat. Now, if your mother's afraid, or if the aggression is really bad, you can do a few things to ease into this. One is you can conduct the sessions and have your mother standing next to you. And when that's going okay, you can both hold the pole. And when that's going okay, your mother can conduct the session, but you're standing right there. And then progress to your mother conducting the session by herself. The other thing you can do is make sure you have a really, really long pole, or even tape 2 yardsticks together to ensure that the cat has a comfort zone. And this will let your cat kind of get used to the idea. And it also protects your mom, right? There'll be a big distance between the cat's claws and the cat's teeth and your mom's hand. So we might want to start off with a longer wand to help the cat feel safe and secure. But once he gets into the groove of doing the play sessions with your mother, that will really help the relationship a lot. And then little things, you know, you can have your mother feed the cat so that her smells are on the food and the food bowl. This helps too. And one other thing you can try is synthetic pheromones. So these trick the cat into thinking that they've already marked something or someone as theirs, as friendly, as calming. So you know how your cat rubs against you and puts her facial deposits on you. These are her friendly feel-good pheromones. And you can buy products that replicate these synthetic pheromones. One that I love is Comfort Zone, and another one is Feel Away. They come in a spray. You could have your mom spray a little on her sleeves, maybe on her shoes, on the bottom of her pant leg. And this will help to trick your cat into thinking that he's already marked her and delegated her as friendly, and this will help with his fear of your mother too.
All right, great, thank you. So we have a comment in the chat box. Thank you so much for the program, and thanks to Dr. Rachel for your insights. And the question you were just answering said, thank you. Oops, I just got another question that popped in, sorry. Thank you, and that they'll try those ideas. We have another question in the chat box. I adopted a cat last year. She's about 7 years old, and I think that she lived a big part of her life outside of a home. She does like she does like people and has really adapted well, I think. She's really sensitive to sounds though, and just generally anxious, so the anxiety dissipates fairly quickly. I've tried synthetic pheromones, which you just mentioned, and those work well, and I also do try to incorporate play. Do you have any other general tips for anxiety relief?
So you could also try, there are products that are made specifically for calming. There are calming chews. And again, you can buy these products, in a pet supply store or Chewy or Amazon. So you might want to try some calming chews for your cat. There are some CBD oils that are really good for calming for cats. If she's jumpy with noise, one thing you can do is just try desensitizing your cat to the noise. And desensitization is just a big fancy word of saying, like, let's get your cat used to it. So what you could do is, whatever the noise is that your cat's afraid of, you could use your iPhone to record that noise and play it at a very low volume for your cat, just for a little bit, maybe like 10 seconds at a very low volume. And when she gets used to that, you can play it at a little higher volume and let it go a little longer. And when she gets used to that, you can up it again. So you can take the noises that she's afraid of, whether, it's the vacuum cleaner or, I don't know, crumpling a paper bag, whatever it is that your cat might be afraid of, record that noise and just expose her to the noise a little bit at a time. And when she sees that it's okay, that no harm is happening, there's no consequences, she'll get used to the idea, and then you can add a little bit, more volume and add a little bit more length. So you can get your cat used to noise that way too.
Okay, thank you. This person said super helpful, thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. And if anybody needs, if I didn't get to your question or you need more, because I'm kind of giving bullet point answers, feel free to go to my website, drrachelcatbehavior.com. You can submit your question. I answer all questions completely free of charge. So I'm here if you need me for, more.
Okay, thank you for that offer. I just put the website in the chat box in case anybody is more visual or wants to click on it to save it. It's there for everyone in the chat box. So we're at about an hour. So I'd like to thank Dr. Rachel again for sharing all of her stories and expertise, and for everyone for joining us and for bringing your wonderful questions and having such a great discussion tonight.
Thank you, everybody. Thanks, Becky, and thanks, Storrs Library. It was great to be here.
All right.